released a bunch of frogs on Karen and her friends who won't stop using my pool. I'm pretty sure none of them saw it coming, but this is what happens when you mess with a no-nonsense homeowner. Welcome to Prodigy Tales. Make sure you like and subscribe for your top-notch HOA drama. I had just moved into this neighborhood because I thought it was a calm place and the HOA would help keep the peace. I figured it would be a place where people mowed their lawns, waved politely, and maybe borrowed a cup of sugar now and then. Not a circus led by a self-proclaimed queen bee. They charged me a fortune because the house had a pool, but I didn't care. I always dreamed of having one. The sound of water, the idea of a swim after work, it felt worth every dime. Then reality slapped me. It was barely a week after I moved in. I came back from grocery shopping carrying enough bags to stock a bunker when I noticed someone splashing around in my pool. I thought maybe exhaustion was making me hallucinate. Nope. There she was, floating like she owned it. I walked up cautiously, thinking maybe she was confused, maybe lost. She looked harmless at first, but her mouth told a different story. "Who the hell are you?" she barked. I froze, then explained politely that I was the new homeowner. That's when she dropped her bomb. She claimed she was the HOA president, which apparently gave her unlimited pool rights. My jaw nearly hit the ground. She flat out accused me of lying about owning the place. I showed her the papers, the deed, proof everything was in my name. She squinted, half convinced, then muttered something about not being informed before arrogantly wrapping a towel around herself. Fine, but I'll be back. She strutted off like a villain promising a sequel. I stood there dripping frustration, clutching melting ice cream, realizing I had stepped into a battlefield disguised as a neighborhood. And Karen? She had just fired the opening shot. Before we dive in deeply, let us know in the comments what country or which city you're watching this story from. We'd love to know how far this story travels. I wasn't about to let that nonsense repeat itself, so the very next morning I planted big, bold, no trespassing signs around the pool. Bright red letters, can't miss kind of signs. I even made sure one faced the street so there was no excuse. Anyone with eyes could see that the pool was off limits unless invited. By evening, I came home from work tired but curious. I hoped maybe Karen had gotten the message, maybe she'd feel embarrassed. But no. As I pulled into the driveway, there it was again, laughter echoing across the yard. I walked faster, and my blood pressure spiked. Karen was back. Not just her, this time she'd brought two of her friends. They lounged on my floaties like queens on thrones, sipping from cups that looked suspiciously like they were stolen from my kitchen. I stormed up to them. "Do you not see the signs?" I asked, pointing. Karen didn't even flinch. She smirked, flipping her wet hair like some diva in a shampoo commercial. Her friends giggled as if I was the evening's comedy act. Turns out the real estate agent had made a colossal mistake. He left a spare key with Karen. That explained how she strolled in like she owned the place. I hadn't changed the locks yet, and she took full advantage. She taunted me, telling her friends, "Look at him, so powerless. He can't touch the HOA president." They laughed in sync, like backup dancers to her lead role. Calling law enforcement crossed my mind, but that felt too easy, too predictable. I wanted her to feel the sting of humiliation in a way cops couldn't deliver. I needed something creative, something unforgettable. That's when the idea sparked. The following day, I drove out to the biggest swamp I could find nearby. With gloves, a net, and buckets, I hunted down frogs. Dozens of them, slimy, squirming, croaking little jumpers. I scooped them until my buckets were heavy, nearly sloshing over. I loaded them into the trunk, grinning like a mad scientist. Karen thought she was untouchable, but she had no idea what was brewing. The stage was set, and soon she and her little pool party squad would learn a lesson they'd never forget. After watching her patterns, I realized Karen treated my pool like it was her Friday resort. Every Friday evening, she'd sneak in as if the place had her name engraved on the tiles. That gave me the perfect opening to execute my little amphibian masterpiece. That Friday, I called in sick to work. I parked my car down the block to make it look like I wasn't home. Inside, I waited quietly, listening. Sure enough, around 6, the familiar sound of my gate creaking open reached my ears. Then came the chatter, the shrill laughter. Karen and her entourage waltzed straight in, swimsuits under their dresses like clockwork. I peeked through the blinds. There they were, tossing towels on my chairs, filling the pool with their noise. Karen led the charge, strutting around like royalty. I stepped out eventually, pretending like I had just come from inside, not caring anymore about the element of surprise. Her two friends froze for a moment, looking guilty, but Karen waved her hand dismissively. "Relax, ladies. He can't do anything," she said with a grin sharp enough to cut glass. "You're with the HOA president." Her tone dripped arrogance, and her friends giggled nervously, clinging to her fake confidence. I stood calmly, leaning against the railing, watching them splash around. I didn't shout, didn't argue. That confused them. They whispered to each other, wondering why I wasn't raging. That's when I decided it was showtime. The bucket I had hidden earlier behind a pot of flowers was ready. I picked it up slowly, almost ceremoniously, and walked over. The women didn't even notice, too busy mocking me and clinking their plastic cups together. Then, splash! The frogs scattered instantly, diving into the pool, leaping onto floaties, and landing right on their shoulders. The moment they realized, chaos erupted. One friend screamed so loud it probably registered on a seismograph. The other started flailing like she was being electrocuted. And Karen? Oh, Karen shrieked, "Help! Help!" paddling frantically, frogs clinging to her arms. I didn't dive in. No, I grabbed my phone, pressed record, and captured the entire meltdown in crystal clear 4K. This was pure gold. The neighborhood wasn't quiet anymore. Karen's screaming echoed down the street, and soon enough, curtains lifted, blinds cracked open, and curious neighbors peeked out. A couple even stepped onto their porches, phones ready, recording every second of the chaos in my pool. It was better than reality TV, HOA royalty being dethroned by a bucket of frogs. Karen clawed her way out of the pool, slipping on the wet tiles, her mascara running down her face like black rivers. Her friends weren't any better, scrambling for towels while shrieking like banshees. She caught her breath and did exactly what I predicted, a Karen classic. She pulled out her phone and called the cops. Minutes later, flashing lights rolled into the neighborhood. Karen straightened up, trying to regain her authority, pointing at me with shaking hands. "He assaulted us. He released animals into the pool while we were swimming," she ranted, her voice cracking. The officers looked at her, then at me, then at the giant "no trespassing" signs posted everywhere like neon billboards. I calmly explained everything, showed my proof of ownership, the spare key issue, and my recordings of her trespassing week after week. When Karen tried to argue, one officer shut her down. "Ma'am, even if he put frogs in the pool, it's his pool. You were trespassing." That line alone nearly made me laugh out loud. Her face turned crimson, and she began sputtering excuses about HOA privileges. The officers weren't buying it. They filed a report, noted the evidence, and gave me a nod that said, "We know who the real problem is here." But I wasn't done. Nope. Frogs were just Act 1. I wanted a lasting lesson burned into her ego. So I took it to court. With all the footage, documents, and witness accounts, it wasn't even a battle. Karen was found guilty of criminal trespass and invasion of privacy. The judge hit her with $5,000 in punitive damages and ordered 2 weeks of community service, picking up trash in the very neighborhood where she once paraded around like a queen. The humiliation was complete. My pool was safe, my neighborhood entertained, and Karen, she finally learned that messing with me had consequences she'd never forget. The end. Please like and subscribe for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.